Begins.
That was so apropos.
It was.
Hi, my name is Henry, but almost everyone calls me Hank. And this beautiful lady is of 57 years being married to me is my wife, Evelyn.
Hello.
My story starts with my parents, John and Gladys. She was called Rose Miotke. I came from a big family of 9 boys and girls. There was Frank, Ed and Bill, and then me, my sisters Lucy and Jody, then Don, Leonard, Tony, Bernie, and Calvin, and he was known as Kelly.
My family was a little bit like the Brady Bunch. My parents, Peter and Minnie Kramer, had 2 sons, Peter Kramer Jr. and Sylvester, whose nickname was Lucky, and 3 girls, Marie, Rita, and myself. My father died when he was only 58 years old of what was called the White Plague, was a kind of tuberculosis. Eventually, my mother remarried Peter Etzel. Peter and Peter, it's easy to keep that name straight. He was a widower who had 7 children of his own from a previous marriage.
The craziest thing was that both our families originally came from Europe. My father's side was from Warsaw, Poland, and my mother's side from Germany. My grandpa Miotke moved from Poland to Chicago, Illinois, and our immediate family grew up in Grenville, South Dakota. I was the first to leave South Dakota to come to Oregon when I was 20 years old, and eventually most of my family moved here also.
My ancestors were also from Germany on both my mother's and my father's sides. While we were living in White Lake, South Dakota, we would come here to Oregon to visit our favorite Uncle Nick Kramer. Our family loved Oregon so much that we moved to Sublimity and we started raising strawberries, wheat, and oats. Back in South Dakota, we raised lots of animals and were row crop farmers to survive. We made everything ourselves at home, from butter to soap. We had a storage cellar where we kept our food supply like potatoes, onions, and all of Mom's home canned goods. We also used that cellar to get away from tornado storms. Our water that was from a well was so hard we had to boil it before cooking or drinking. To wash our clothes, we had an old wringer washer, and then we hung them on a line to dry, either outside or inside. To press our clothes, we had a gas iron, and since we had no electricity, we had gas and kerosene lamps to light our house at night.
Yeah, and our family also farmed in South Dakota, and we all helped with wheat, corn, flax, oats, and barley. We helped cut the crop and haul it to the barn. We also hauled our water from town, or we just depended on rain and it filled a cistern, which was a big tank. We also raised all the farm animals you can imagine, 4-legged and 2-legged, it didn't matter. We did not have electricity as we know it today, but we did have a windmill on top of the house that was called a charger. This generated electricity to charge our batteries for light and radio. While growing up in South Dakota, I attended St. Joseph's Catholic School. It was a 3-room school with grades 1 to 3 in one room, 4 to 6 in another, and then 7 and 8 in the 3rd room. I graduated from high school in South Dakota with 7 other people in my class. After I graduated from high school, it was determined or diagnosed that I had flat feet, and so I could not be recruited by any of the military forces for World War II. But I worked in the shipyards in Portland as my part of helping a war effort.
Well, my siblings and I had to walk 2 miles to and from school, unless it was really harsh weather. Then we got to take the horse and buggy to school. We moved from South Dakota to Oregon when I was 10 years old, and I went to St. Boniface grade school and graduated from St. Boniface High School in 1941. When I was a young teen, I got rheumatic fever, which started out as strep throat. But the infection got really bad, so my parents kept me home with proper rest, lots of proper rest, and antibiotics. We didn't go to the doctor and hospitals like we do now, so they wanted to make sure I stayed home and was well. Even though I missed most of that whole school year, I was able to graduate on time. I remember extended family get-togethers, potluck meals, card playing, and lots of sing-alongs and dancing with piano and violin accompaniment. Music has always been a really important part of my life since childhood.
I first met Evelyn at her mother and stepdad's house, just before the wedding of her stepsister, Eleanor Etzel. Eleanor just happened to be marrying my brother Ed. Go figure. The entire wedding party had to ride together in one car to make it to the wedding practice. It was so crowded, and Evelyn and I were part of that wedding party. It was so crowded in the car that she had to partially sit on my leg in the back seat. Darn, she looked so pretty. I just impulsively reached up and gave her a kiss. How was I to know she was engaged? I guess with just one kiss, the rest is history. Shortly after that, I asked her to marry me, and she did. I had many different jobs to support the new family. I worked as a welder and a salesman for the Firestone Tire Company. I also worked at a local lumber mill in construction. I worked at Lulay Lumber Company, the A.M. Minden Farm, the Termite Lumber Company, and Simpson Timber. Finally, I worked for Staten Cannery, which became known later as Norpac. I worked there as a cookroom supervisor until my retirement.
I worked for a dry cleaner in Salem and then at the Paris Woolen Mills in Staten as a weaver. The name they called the weavers was a clothier, and there I learned many different techniques for weaving. There was ring spinning, open end or rotor spinning, and air jet spinning, weaving the yarn into the cloth. I also worked in a pie shop where I earned a reputation for my amazing pies. I worked at the Marion Home here in Sublimity. My last job was at Staten Canning Company as a head floor lady. It was a title not given to many women at the time. Both Hank and I had to rotate shifts from days to swing to graveyard, but we finally were able to be on the same shift.
We didn't work all the time. Some of my favorite hobbies were fishing and hunting and helping people with my handyman skills when I was able to. My father was a good farmer, but he also was a very good carpenter, and he taught me the tricks of the trade. I had fun bowling and even have a few trophies to show for it. I also helped build, manage, and maintain Anthony Hall for the local Knights of Columbus Council, number 2439. I really enjoyed belonging to the Knights of Columbus, and I became a 4th degree Knight. This is the highest honor of being a member of the Knights of Columbus. To do so, I had to follow the 4 principles of order: charity, unity, fraternity, and patriotism. And these are all attributes I really believe in.
After we retired, we bought a motorhome. We loved the RV life. We traveled to Reno, to the coast, and toured much of the United States. Our motorhome was also our tent when we went deer and elk hunting.
Yeah, I used to say, if that motorhome is rocking, don't come knocking. Of course, that was because we danced. We did love to dance, and in our early years of marriage, we belonged to a lot of local dance clubs. We taught our kids and their friends how to do the swing, the two-step, the waltz, and other dance steps. Wherever we were, people who saw us dance said we looked like we were floating on clouds.
Well, I was known as a celebration waiting to happen. If there was a reason to party, we did. We had lots of friends that we traveled with, invited for card games and for meals. I loved to entertain and to cook for anyone. Our kids told us that their friends thought that I was the mother extraordinaire. Holidays were incredibly special events for us. Hank and I both worked hard and played hard. We always had, Mom and Dad. We always had time for an open door and open arms for people who would want to pop over and have a quick drink, or as Hank called it, a skosh.
A lot of skoshas in that motorhome. Some of my favorite memories come from Christmas time and all the activities of that holy season. I used to help set up the church nativity scene here in church. I also had a house right close and had many, many strands of multicolored Christmas lights. I know that our holiday traditions and our special recipes will be passed down from us to our children and to their children as they continue our family Christmas legacy.
I cannot end our little visit without mentioning our 5 children, 19 grandchildren, and many great-grandchildren with more to come, we're sure. The Lord blessed us with 4 daughters and 1 son. They are Carolyn, Ken, Marilyn, Donna, and Deanna, our twins. All of our children were baptized, made their first confession, first communion, and were confirmed in this church. My kids told me about a poem that they said reminded them of me. It goes like this. So, Mother, with your sweet fragrance lingering in our minds, now know we are truly blessed, 'cause there is no other like you, Mom. You truly are one of God's best. Isn't that just so sweet? The best compliment a mother could ever receive.
Our family, both immediate and extended, was the best. I will always cherish special moments with them. Our friends, too, were amazing. We had many great times with Fred and Marie Weiss, Bob and Dolores Kramer, Ralph and Marcy Lulay, Al and Marcy Etzel, just to name a few, and Don and Stella Lulay. Looking back, we had numerous happy memories, especially involving our church here at St. Boniface. We are quite proud that our 4 daughters were married here at the same church we were married at. Our parish family was a major part of our social life, including helping with the annual chicken dinner, Evelyn singing in the choir, and me ushering at Mass. The building stands as a symbol of our Sublimity community and the love we have for the Creator and Lord of heaven and earth. Well, I heard our time is about up. Thank you for listening to our short story today.